Hello class, so today we're going to be learning the language of algebra. So we're going to be going through and defining some key terms here. To make it more interesting, we'll put some little background music on. And let's start off looking at some vocabulary we'll need for our algebra class. So this is the objective. We're going to learn the terms variable, expression, equation, inequality, formula, coefficients, constants, real numbers, rational numbers, and irrational numbers. Seems like a lot, but a lot of these terms are reviewed from your algebra class. So first thing I want you guys to do is take out a piece of paper, and we're going to take notes that are going to go into your interactive portfolio. And I want you to set the page up just like this. So you have one full page with all of the terms on the left hand side, and then you can fill in the definitions on the right. Okay, so at any time as we're going through this, you can of course pause the video if you're taking notes while we're going. And you'll see that also I'm going to be going to a website. Here's the link. I'm also going to post the link on Edmodo so you guys can go to it. So if any time you guys can go there and copy down the equations or the terms. So let's look at this. These are the terms. The first one, let's look at algebraic expression. The big thing about an algebraic expression is that it includes variables and constants. Now I know that we're going to be going through this and we'll be talking about what variables and constants are. So we'll define those in a minute. But here's an example of an algebraic expression, and you're going to be seeing this a lot. And the basis of it is that it contains terms, and that the terms are separated by plus or minus signs. So you can see that here we have 3x squared is a term, and then it's separated by a plus sign. 2y is a term, and this whole thing is my expression that has 4 terms. Okay, so we have expression down. Now let's look at variable, and you can find variable on the same page. In this case, a variable is represented with a letter. Usually we use x and y, and we use the term variable because it varies. So it can be a number, can represent one or more numbers for that letter. Okay, so again, you guys can come to this page and you can come up with a definition for variable. I like it if it was in your own terms, or you simplify this. The next one, we're going to skip equation, inequality, and formula for right now. Let's see what's next on this page. We have coefficients. So it says here that coefficients are the number part of the term with the variable. So here's an expression, 3x squared plus 2y plus 7xy plus 5. Now, in this case, the coefficients for this first term, it's just the 3. It's a number that comes before the variable. So the x is the variable in this case, and the 3 is the coefficient. The second one is 2, and then this term has a coefficient of 7. This one, we wouldn't call this a coefficient because there's no variable associated with it. So the next term, that leads us right into constants. This 5 right here would fall into the constants category. A constant is a term in an expression that contains only numbers. So it's only a number right here. So that's a very easy definition right there. Okay, let's turn the music back on. Alright, back to this. So we have coefficients, constants, the last 3 now. well, we're still going to do these, but the last three that we're going to have on this page are real numbers, rational numbers, and irrational numbers. So let's look back at this web page. And this says that a real number, well, in algebra we work with sets of real numbers which we can model using the number line. And the way you can think about it is with this number line, a real number is any number that would fall onto this number line. So it describes real world quantities. So it's anything that would fall on a number line. So that includes integers, which are the actual hatch marks here. So -1's an integer, -8's an integer. It includes fractions. So if we had 1/2, that would be right about here, as well as decimals like 2.34, somewhere in there. And the opposite of that is numbers that are not real, and we're going to be learning about imaginary numbers later on in the year, but for right now you can just note that there are imaginary numbers, and we will learn about them later. Okay, the next one is a rational number. It says we call the set of real integers and fractions rational numbers. That means rational numbers, all of your integers and all of your fractions are rational. Rational, you can think of ratio, which ratio you usually think of a fraction, such as 1 to 2. So going along with that, any decimal can be written as a fraction, so therefore decimals are also rational numbers. Now that leads us to an irrational number, rational numbers. And the best example for an irrational number is pi. I know you guys have learned about pi. Now there's other irrational numbers that we'll be learning in this course, such as e. But for right now, pi is a great example. Pi can't be written on the number line because this decimal point goes on and on and on and on forever, and it never stops. Therefore, you can't give it one exact point on a number line. So this is called an irrational number. Now, it's important to note that even though this is an irrational number, it's still a real number. So it's still real, it's not imaginary. It falls within the reals. It just goes on forever and ever and ever. Therefore, we give it a special name of irrational number. Okay. So that leaves us with just three more. We have equation, inequality, and formula. Let's look at equation. So in equation, we learned about expressions, so I think a lot of you guys would have a common knowledge of what equation is. But here's my definition. It's two algebraic expressions joined with an equal sign. So that's a pretty basic definition, but let's look at that. Let's say that we have one expression, 3x squared plus 2. And let's write another expression down here, and I'll write it in a different color. Let's say we have 5x plus 6y plus 1. And I'm going to write one more down here. I'm going to write an expression which is 5. Now this expression is also just a constant, you'll see, but we can still call it an expression. Now let's put a big equal sign here. And you can see that if I have any one of these two expressions, I can set them together and this becomes an equation. So this is an equation. I can do this as well. These are both expressions, and I can create this. This is also an equation. This is also an equation as well. Now you'll see here that I have two different variables, and that's okay. You can have two different variables in an equation. There's no limitations on how many variables you can have. So these are all proper equations. Okay, the next term is an inequality. And an inequality is very similar to an equation. It just has one difference. What do you think that difference is? I'll tell you in a second. Okay, you guys probably want music again, so here we go. Alright, so an inequality is two algebraic expressions, but this time instead of joined with an equation sign, it's joined with an inequality sign. So the inequality signs, let's review them. We have less than, we have greater than, and then we have these two, except if we put this line underneath, that means less than or equal to. And I won't write the last one, but that's greater than or equal to. So I know that you guys know inequality signs. This is something that I definitely review from pre-algebra and other courses. But just note that we're going to be talking about inequalities a lot, and what I want you to think of is there are two expressions joined with one of these signs. And last one we'll learn about is a formula. And a formula, this is just a really special name for an equation. So formula definition is a special case of an equation where the equation begins with a single variable. So it's one of those that you've already solved it or isolated the variable. Let's look at examples here. I think you guys will understand this. And the most classic one, E is equal to mc squared. It fits our definition of a formula. We have the E is by itself, and this actually says energy is equal to mass times the speed of light squared. This is a formula. Now, ones that we're going to be learning about in this class, we have quadratic formula, which you guys will be doing, which you did in Algebra 1 as well. This one as well you did in Algebra, but it's a slope-intercept form, but since it's written with y isolated by itself, we can call this a formula. Here's one you did in geometry as well, and we'll be doing in this class. This is the distance formula. Just as a quick review. Okay, again, these go in your notes. You'll have resources posted on Edmodo, and I will be checking these notes to make sure that you have them.